Hello and welcome to the Easily Excitable podcast. My name is Top and with me this week is Spencer. Hey man, how's it going?
Hi. Can I have 18 more hours of sleep?
Oh, let me just rummage around in my bag and see if I have them available.
Yeah, let me run down to the shop. What do you have by?
So yeah, things are going well aside from that?
Oh yeah, everything's good, survived the state of emergency a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, you had so much snow, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw
we got
your
a
pictures.
lot. I could show you pictures.
Yeah, you posted a bunch on Twitter and it was like, what, 5 foot of snow, 6 foot? Something like that?
Well, there's actually the actual snowfall total for my neighborhood was 83 centimeters. I want to say it was like 82 point something. Because in the east end of St. John's, it was 76 point something, and in Mount Pearl in the west end, it was 92. And we're kind of in the middle of that, and so the station down over the hill from us measured 82 point something centimeters of snow. But that didn't take into account the 100 and some odd kilometers an hour of wind that was blowing everything around. So that translated into like 5 to 7 foot drifts.
Yeah.
And that's what's in my yard now.
Crazy. I guess it hasn't warmed up much since then.
We had a bit of rain Sunday evening, Super Bowl Sunday. And it settled it down maybe about 4 inches. I want to say that's it. Created a whole pile of flooding. There's one stretch of Water Street West. The water was up to the running boards on the Jeep. Yeah, there's a lot of water. There were like sedans in front of me turning around and going back the other way and trying to find a way around it. Yeah. I'm good for about 30 odd inches of water fording in that thing. So I'll just take my time and go through it, and no big deal. And it was all fine. So, but yeah, that settled it down about 4 or 5 inches. Apparently we have another blast coming this weekend, like Friday. I'm actually going to be out of town for that. And, we'll see how the road trip goes with, 15 to 20 new centimeters of snow falling.
Yes. Crazy.
Glad I drive a Jeep.
Yeah.
Very glad I drive a Jeep.
I've got this big, I'm driving a Chevrolet Silverado at the moment, which is a big pickup truck.
Yeah.
And
is that a new one or one of the older ones?
It's an old one. It's got 188,000 miles on it.
Oh, wow. That's old.
Yeah, so that's what I'm currently driving. Hopefully soon I'll be able to get a vehicle of my own. I'm borrowing this from Rachel's parents.
Okay.
And yeah, it's massive, but because it's so big and I'm so unfamiliar with driving on this side of the road, I'm kind of like, I am very comfortable in this. And like when I was driving Rachel's Mazda 3, I'm like, this is a very small car in comparison to what I'm used to driving on this road. Very, I don't know, it's very strange. So yeah, but...
Yeah, when my parents are in town, like Dad doesn't drive here in town, and he's got a Chev Silverado as well. He's got a 2018 one, and going from the Jeep to that thing feels like I'm going from like a small tank to an aircraft carrier.
It's
trying to find parking and stuff like that. Holy moly!
Yeah, luckily a lot of the things around here are like designed to accommodate pickups of that size. So
nice.
It's not terrible, I'll say that. But
that's good.
It gets me from A to B, and that's all I need right now. But
yeah,
maybe something that's a bit more fuel efficient should be in my future. But we'll see.
Go get one of those Cybertruck Teslas. Is that what they called?
Maybe. I didn't like the Tesla that I've ever been in. So, like, because I went in the like traditional Tesla. And the company that was so there's a taxi company in the Netherlands that when I went over there to visit, they yeah, they have Teslas and Nissan Leafs and all that. And I way preferred the Nissan Leaf over the Tesla. So I was like, But that's also
Really?
like, it was also, as a passenger, it was obviously Nissan's a company that have been making cars for many years and know how to accommodate both for driver and for passenger. And the Leaf was way more comfortable to be in as a passenger than a Tesla. So I'm kind of not biased in terms of electric cars, but I already know what I would prefer, given that I've had experience in them as a passenger. Obviously not driving them, but, you know, it's easy enough to get an idea and just be like, oh, this is all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, but probably not an electric car. I don't know. I haven't decided. There's still things to figure out. So, woo! I get to figure out what kind of car I want and how much it's going to cost.
Let's go A B C as opposed to A X Z.
Yeah, I know, right? It's kind of strange times. So main thing I wanted to talk to you about, like, there's two kind of main conversations that I wanted to address. One is, this is episode 198 of this podcast, and I'm ending it at episode 200.
It's almost over.
It's almost over, and it's nearly come to an end. But I feel like the podcast served its purpose. It's been going on for, obviously, 200 episodes now. I did 100 episodes of the one before it, and there was like, I can't remember, 12 or 13 episodes of the podcast before that kind of ran in parallel with Topham Chats. It was Community Notes. I can't remember when I first invited you onto one of the podcasts. I feel like it was pretty early, but
I think it was Community Notes, wasn't it?
If it was, then that was 6 years ago. So
that's about right.
Yeah, I thought it was, and
it was one of the last Community Notes.
Yes. Yeah, I thought it was. I've been looking through them for other guests, and I really should have just paid attention. But I thought I had time. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation that's going to be probably in another podcast.
You're breaking the fourth wall.
I know that.
You're breaking the fourth wall, damn it.
I know that, but you also said it was Super Bowl Sunday, the Sunday we've just had, so...
I know, but that's just dating it. That's dating the podcast. That's not revealing behind the scenes stuff.
But podcast coming to an end. I've had a great time recording it. I've enjoyed every time I've recorded with you. I've enjoyed most of the podcasts I've recorded.
I have too.
And it's just been like one of those crazy revelations that I'm at a point where I'm just like, I feel comfortable stopping this for the time being with other things that I thought were inevitably going to be coming up, that I was going to get a job, I was going to be limited on time. The way that that's kind of panned out is the situation as to why we're recording so many weeks in advance now. It's just, it's all come to a point where I'm just like, I'm glad that I've kind of decided to call it, because life is about to get more hectic with a job, and I just need to figure out when I'm going to have time to catch up with the people that I catch up with daily, weekly, and I guess monthly as well, people that I catch up with on the podcast. I just need to figure out what is going to be going on, and whether it is sustainable or not for me to keep doing. And it served its purpose. I've definitely got better at talking at length and planning things out, and just generally talking to people better as well. And I know that right now I'm monologuing and not giving you any space to talk, but it's just one of those things that over the time of the podcast, I feel like I've gone from being able to maybe do a 20-minute podcast with someone to now just being able to do them at whatever length. The one with Dom that came out a while ago was an hour and 15 minutes, and we were just like, let's just record for like...
I haven't had a chance to...
That was the first one.
I haven't had a chance to listen to all that one yet. I got part of the ways in, and I had to give up, and then I just haven't picked it up yet.
Yeah, it was a long one. It was good. I enjoyed that one. It just kind of kept going, and we were just like, we've got loads to talk about. I monologued a bunch as well about the end of the podcast, so I was just like, okay, I just need to get all these thoughts out, and obviously they're still trailing off over the last few episodes, and I just wanted to kind of have on all of the guests that I've enjoyed recording with the most, and the ones I've recorded with the most frequently and recently as well, because there's some people that I recorded with early that I just haven't been able to get in contact with just because our schedules don't align at all. Like, I wish I could have Raph on again, but he's in New York, he's got his band, what he's working on, and yeah, just haven't had a chance to catch up with him.
Yeah, he seems to be a super busy guy these days too.
Yeah. With his, have you listened to his band, Nascentum? They're a black metal band.
I've heard bits. I've heard bits and pieces. I haven't really had a chance to like sit down and really immerse myself in it. But yeah, I've heard bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So
they put out a split EP. I thought it was really, really good. They put it a lot alongside a more produced black metal band as well. That kind of lost a bit of its edge. I was like, oh no, it's really well produced, and it kind of loses the raw capacity that black metal tends to have.
Yeah. Yes. There's some music you just don't want it to be super, super polished.
Yeah. You either in black metal you either go raw or you go like super produced, like Dimmu Borgir, or I have a song stuck in my head and I don't know what it is, and I was going to say Dark Fortress, but Dark Fortress is the translation of Dimmu Borgir, so I'm just trying to remember what songs I was thinking of. But yeah, you've kind of got the two ends of black metal. Obviously, like, you've got the symphonic style of black metal as well, which obviously has to be super produced, and like, because you're not going to get much symphony in a lo-fi version really coming through particularly well. So
right, and this is why I had this a very similar conversation with this the other day, like this one the other day, but we were talking about grunge, same thing.
Yes,
if is it really grunge if it's really polished? My opinion, no, it's something else. That's why I never got into that's why I was never really a huge fan of Bush. Because I found them to be just a little too polished compared to everything else that was going on. And I know that was done on purpose. It was, it was kind of meant to differentiate themselves from everyone else. It just didn't quite ring with me at the time. And I was having a grand old chat with someone the other day about all this. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's funny that this comes up in conversation here.
I know, right? Crazy. So yeah, what thread did I get on to get there? Oh no, it was saying that Raph's band had done a split EP with another band. Nascentum had done one with another band who's their side was really, it was well produced. It sounded good, but I don't know whether it kind of lost a bit of the atmosphere that I would have been looking for that band. But oh well, it's fine. And yeah, I was just trying to go through all the guests that I've had on frequently and everything. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
And it's just been, the podcast has been good. It's served me well. It got me talking to people, and I've really enjoyed doing it and just chatting with people and getting thoughts out in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed every single time that you've had me on here, and I'm very grateful for it. It's been so much fun, and it's been great to connect with you.
Yeah,
and I'm kind of sad that it's going to be done.
Yeah,
but I mean, we're still gonna connect. We're still gonna talk.
Yeah, absolutely. We're still gonna.
It just might not be recorded.
Yeah, just shoot messages back and forth and stuff, and
absolutely.
Yeah, I was thinking about music earlier. Oh, I'm always thinking about music. What am I saying? No, I was thinking about music earlier. Like, all the music I produced last year, I made like 10 tracks, I think. I wrote a journal about it at the beginning of the year. It was just like a recap of all the music that I produced last year that I recorded and put out, especially with like Game of Bands as well, that gave me some motivation to do it. We were talking about recording music as well. I joined a band of some sort. We're still trying to figure out and find more members. I've been listening to stuff today and I'm just like, yes, we should definitely be playing progressive math rocky kind of stuff. And then I'm like, no, that's not what we do. So yeah, we're just looking for other members of the band at this point in time as well. People that can just play along and just try and figure out where it sits, and then from there I'll be able to figure out where like all the musical ideas that I didn't record last year fit and where they go and where they belong.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to figure that out right now. And yeah, and then you've also, like, I was going to send some of the music over to you. Some of the music that I did send over to you, I'm using in the band with these people now, and we're just trying to figure out where it will go. And then you've also got all your stuff going on with 1551, so I was like, that's at least fulfilling you creatively. I just wanted to do some work with you, but at the same time,
we can still do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we can absolutely still do that. That's that the door has not closed on that.
No, I was
not by any stretch.
Yeah, I've kind of repurposed some of the ideas I sent towards you anyway, just as a basis for like starting this band. So I'm just trying to figure out other things, and like I've said, where that band fits in terms of like in musical terms, because I've been working on like so many different styles of music as well that I'm kind of quite versatile now. Like, I wouldn't say kind of quite versatile. I am very versatile in like what music I can create and produce. So I just need to figure out what music belongs where, which is really an odd thing to do. And that led me to start an experiment last week, which was a lot of fun to do. You tweeted at me being like, "You're having fun with this, aren't you?" I was like, "Yeah, I am. I really am having a good time." I recently got a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, which is an audio interface that allows me to, record using a microphone much clearer than the Line 6 UX1 or UX2 that I had. I wasn't particularly impressed with its microphone recording capabilities. However, I did really like what it did for me for recording direct in guitars. But I wanted to see how the audio interface worked and would interact with the microphones I have, the amps that I have, and the speakers on the different amps that I have as well. So I decided to set myself up and experiment. Go ahead.
Before we get too far into this, if memory serves me correct, on the Scarlett 2i2, you can actually do that's a 2-input one, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so you can do your line in that you typically used to do with your other interface, as well as you can have your at least one mic on your amp.
Yes,
you can you can do very cool sort of before and after comparisons if you wished. And you can have a raw sample of your guitar in addition to your sort of amped your mic'd up amp version of it. So you have options.
Yes, yeah, and I have an ABY splitter as well, so I can easily do that setup. So I can either put it.
I knew you did.
I can do that pre or post effects as well, and then figure out where that sits. I did not do that now because I was recording with GarageBand, which only takes one input. So I could only record one line at a time, unfortunately. I kind of want to get Logic Pro so that I can record two tracks at the same time using a DI and a microphone, or two microphones and have them in separate tracks rather than having one. I also didn't have a second XLR cable to set up a second mic, or otherwise I would have done that on one track to just try and see what kind of sounds that I can get. You know what it's like.
Yeah, because I mean, you can play with tight mic versus ambient mic. This microphone here on this part of the cabinet, this microphone here over on this part of the cabinet. I mean, so much fun you can have.
I know, right? So I have 3 microphones that I used. I have the Shure SM57, which we've talked at length about. Actually, I think we've talked at length about all the microphones that I have. However, in context of this experiment, I want to kind of touch on them again. The Shure SM57 is a very directional mic. It
is.
It can be very finicky to get it into a position where it sounds good to record. I think the problems I was previously having were related to the audio interface rather than the microphone, because I've kind of emulated the places I used to put the microphone in relation to the speaker, and it seems to have solved a lot of those problems. And so, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and I was just about to say that the 57 is sculpted in like the frequency response pattern of an SM57 is kind of sculpted a little bit where it favors the recording of electric guitar amps. I mean, you can use it on a litany of other things. You can use it on a drum, snare, but I mean, it's in its happy place when it's recording an electric guitar amp. It really is. Yeah. And it does have a little bit of a pre-tailored frequency response that assists with that.
Yeah, and yeah, I found that I actually liked what it was doing with the speakers and the guitars that I was recording. So I was impressed with the mic. I've had it a long time. I've used it to record a lot of things, but yeah, it's the first time that it's really shone and been a decent example for me to look at. Then I have the mic that I'm using.
And you can throw it at a wall, and it won't. 9 chances out of 10 will not get damaged.
Yeah, it's like mega robust, isn't it? It's just
yeah. Ask me how I know that. Although I've in all my years that I've been doing audio engineering, I've had, out of all the 57s that I've ever handled in my life, I had one basically fall apart in my hands.
Ooh.
I was doing live sound at a venue down here in downtown St. John's one time, and I was using their B system, not their A system, their B system, because there was 2 floors going at the one time. And I picked up this SM57 out of the case, and half of it fell back down into the case.
Oh no.
And like you see the wires kind of dangled down from the top part, then beep, they broke, and then it just fell down in the case. I was like, well, that one's not working. Shit. And then I had to go find another one. Anyway, go ahead.
The other mics that I used, one was the Audio-Technica AT2020, which is typically a microphone used for voice. It's the one I'm using right now. And it's the one Achievement Hunter used as well for a long time. I don't know if they still use it or not. But if you remember
from the footage I've seen, yes.
Yeah. Because the old footage from them playing Go was the one that Jeff would always hold in his hand while he was like emceeing the room. And so I was kind of like, I want to get one of those. I got one of those. The audio interface that I originally had, the UX1 Line 6, didn't have phantom power on it. Now the Focusrite Scarlett does, so I can actually use it and see how it sounds. And yeah, it was all right. I'll get more onto that in a bit. And then the other microphone I have is a Sennheiser E609, which is, a very, very nice.
That's my personal favorite.
Yeah, we'll get onto it in a second about what I think of all of them. But yeah, I use that to record the speakers. You just hang it over the front, and it kind of does a good job immediately. And it was, it did exactly what I wanted it to. And, I don't know what else to say about that mic, to be honest, apart from the results, shall I say. And then the other thing...
I'll get some thoughts on that, Mike, when we actually get to it, but go ahead.
Yeah. Then I had, like, I used 2 amps and 2 speakers, but I have a Fender Champion 600 that I'm borrowing. That's a 5-watt all-tube amp that has like either 6 or 8-inch speaker on it that I don't like the sound of. I don't like the sound of the speaker because it's too small. It's way too easy to just overload it, but it also doesn't have an effects loop, so that's one of my problems with that amp. However, when I connect it into the cabinet that I built with the Eminence Swamp Thing in it, it kind of just takes on a new character itself. And the speaker itself, like, I really, really like that speaker. And then I have my Fender Bassbreaker 15-watt amp. It's got a nice effects loop in it, but it's got built-in reverb as well, so I didn't need it. One of the things about the Fender Champion is that I needed to put reverb in it so I could kind of get a consistent sound, but I also added delay as well, which didn't necessarily muddy it up, but it's the fact that you're going into the preamp and the power section all in one with the reverb that I don't like as much, which is why I came to conclusions that I did. I have the Fender Bass Breaker. It's got its own 12-inch speaker, but I could also connect it up as either an extension cabinet or a main cabinet with the Eminence Swamp Thing cabinet that I built. So I've got the Fender Champion with the Eminence Swamp Thing. I've got the Fender Bass Breaker with its own speaker, and I've got the Fender Bass Breaker with the Eminence Swamp Thing speaker cab that I built. So there are my 3 amps and speaker combinations. I've got the 3 mics. What I did was I set up each microphone to the amp and speaker cabinet combination that I wanted, and recorded a 1-minute track that had a little solo guitar intro, a distorted lead over a G minor, F major. Ooh, what note is that? D sharp major 7th chord, and then a D 7th chord. Yeah, I think something like that. Use that chord progression.
I kind of, yeah.
And then just did like a minute long track. Played the lead over it. I played them live every time, recorded some bass underneath, and put drums to it as well, just so that it wasn't boring. And then I listened to them all back and put them all up on SoundCloud. There's 9 tracks. I think it was called Real Amp Blues 1 to 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it showed me some very interesting things. I liked how it was. I liked my consistency in playing as well. Like, I used my green Ibanez with the John Petrucci signature set with the liquefier and the Grunch Lab, but I only used the liquefier neck pickup the whole time for every guitar tone, no matter what it was doing. I really like how that pickup sounds, so I'm not surprised that I liked what was coming out of the amplifiers. I started with the Sennheiser E609. I actually have it all written next to me, and I'm not looking at those notes. And now I should look at those notes so I can easily go through it quickly.
There you go.
So I started with the Sennheiser E609, recorded that with the Bass Breaker and its stock speaker. Then went on to the Bass Breaker Swamp Thing, the Bass Breaker with the Swamp Thing cabinet and the E609, and then the Fender Champion with the Swamp Thing and the E609. And then I did the same with the SM57 and the AT2020. And then I listened to them all back. And what I did was I just tried to pick them at random and go through all 9 to try and figure out which I think sounded the best. And I know what I think sounded the best. And I kind of had a bias going in as well, thinking that it was going to be a certain combination. And then when I listened to them back and I listened to how it all fits together, I still, after listening to them all, think the exact same thing. And I don't know whether that's confirmation bias or the fact that my ears were saying, no, this does sound the best. I think that because I randomized it and I listened to other tracks back to back, I'm pretty confident I'm happy with what I've recorded, and I do think it sounds the best. In that I think the E609 with the Swamp Thing speaker was my favorite, using the Bass Breaker as the amplifier and the Swamp Thing as the speaker, so the extension speaker.
Right.
And I think, using the E609 was the best. What I didn't do was I didn't EQ any of the tracks or use any compression.
Right.
And there were two rhythm tracks, one pound left, one pound right, and the lead track, all not EQ'd or compressed. And I think the E609 did the best job at allowing there to be space within the mix without any other work needing to be done.
Right.
And I think
it kind of stood out on its own, did it?
yes, I think it did. I think that the AT2020 picked up every frequency that it wanted to, and then when I was listening back with whatever speaker or amp it was, that it was getting a bit too cluttered in the mix, so some definition was lost around the place.
Right.
I definitely changed the levels to make sure it was listenable and it wasn't like hitting the compression of the fact that you're adding too much into the mix. And then the SM57 surprised me. I thought it sounded better than the AT2020, which shouldn't be too surprising, really.
Yeah.
And I thought it sounded good, but there were still some areas where the frequencies were overlapping and some clarity was being lost. Whereas the E609 I felt was the best of the bunch, and I definitely liked. I didn't dislike the champion combination with the Swamp Thang, but if you want to listen to the worst combination, I'd say the AT2020 and the Fender Champion Swamp Thing, which is like the last one I recorded, number 9. I definitely think that's the worst of the bunch. So, but I definitely think the Swamp Thang E609 with the bass breaker amp was the best of the group that I recorded.
Yeah, and I think I can tell you why.
Oh yeah,
I really can. Yeah. Well, I mean, starting with the AT2020, I mean, it's a condenser mic.
Yep.
Your other two are dynamic mics. Without getting too technical, condenser mics are much more sensitive. They're at all frequencies, particularly anything from, say, like 1K upward. Just because, electromagnets, by comparison to electrostatic condensers, are heavier and it takes a little more force to move. Therefore, high frequencies don't tend to push them as much, so that's why you're not getting that super shrill sound from the dynamic microphones that you're getting in the E6, that you are for the condenser microphones.
Yeah.
Which that's the whole purpose of them. They're meant to be robust. They're meant to take a little bit more abuse.
Yeah.
Because of condenser microphones being so sensitive, you can push them, but you can't push them as hard as you can, say, a dynamic microphone. And the 57 is sculpted in a certain way in terms of its frequency response. And the E609 is sculpted, but it's sculpted in a different way. There's it's not as boosted in certain frequencies or as cut in certain frequencies as the 57. Like the 57, it has I found it had a much more sculpted sound versus the E609, which has a little bit more of a natural sound.
Yeah.
It's a little more uniform across the board, but where it is sculpted, it's sculpted in the right places.
Okay.
And it has a slightly darker, richer tone than the sculpted sort of I can't say polished because it's not polished. Tailored sound that a 57 has.
Yeah.
Mind you, a lot of people prefer the 57 to the E609. The E609. I'm not one of them. I actually got into an argument with the guitar player one time while doing it. I was like, he's like, why don't you want to use a 57? I was like, because the 57 doesn't capture as much as the E609. This is why he's like, yeah, but there's a sound. I was like, okay, fine. We'll use the 57. And granted, that was the track that ended up being used because that's what the guitarist preferred. Artist was, sort of the final say. So I was like, all right, good enough. But everything else on the album was the E609.
Nice.
So yeah, my preference generally is the E609 over the 57. The 57 definitely, is right up there. It's a good second place microphone for me for doing this kind of stuff. But the 609, I tend to get better, more rounded results with. It gives me as an engineer a little more to work with, frequency wise and tone wise than the 57 does.
Yeah.
It's almost like the 57 comes preordained. Okay, it's going to sound like this. It's well, maybe it shouldn't. sound like that. This would sound better if it didn't sound like that. That kind of thing. So the options are a little more varied with the E609, but with the AT2020, you're getting everything. At
Yeah.
like full blast, and that full whack, and you probably shouldn't be,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the same would be even more pronounced if you had like the AT2020 is a side address large diaphragm condenser microphone. If you had like a small diaphragm condenser pencil shaped microphone, it would be even more exaggerated because there's less, there's less mass to move.
Yes.
So it tends to over exaggerate the wrong frequencies. And it's just the physics of the components. That's all.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why the E609 sounds a little bit better to you.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, and that was like my first experience trying to record with microphones, just being around rather than going direct in. And now, if I can get the sound I want from all the equipment that I have, I'm going to be trying to record with amps and microphones now more, or as much as I can, than with going direct in. Just to try and make it, I don't know, not feel authentic or anything, but I definitely liked how it sounded, and want to try and get better at just doing that recording part anyway.
And I mean, your experimentation is far from over. I mean, you can now you can get into microphone combinations, placement combinations. You do have 2 channels to work with, or you will once you have software that allows that. So
and a second XLR cable.
And a second XLR cable, very critical.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could have your tight. I say tight in terms of it's within say 6 inches of your guitar speaker. Dynamic microphone placement, whether it be on an angle or direct on or what have you, and then you can have your AT2020 sort of giving it a little bit of air, like back say about 3 feet, pointed wherever it sounds best on the speaker in the room. Yeah, that's adding a little bit of room depth to it. So. You have all this world opening up to you now, so it's going to be fun. I can't wait to hear the results.
Yeah, I also have the Boss Katana, which I just didn't even attempt to do anything with, and I was just like, well, that's got its whole other bunch of things it can do. So
and that's the other thing. Amp combinations, you can do that. You can have your 57 on one amp on one setup, and your E609 on another. And you could be playing, feeding both of those at the same time and have your AT2020 in the middle and see what that creates.
Yeah, especially with the ABY, I can just split it to both amps and there we go.
That's right. Now, the only thing is you don't have a 3-channel interface.
I do not, but,
But that's in the future. You might get a 4-channel interface sometime down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. But 2 channels for now is plenty, so... so I'm just gonna see what I can do and just have some fun with it. And it's definitely been a worthwhile experiment as well. So I can just, because now like I've also needed to practice recording with an amp, and rather than just going direct in, because direct in is just really easy. It's just like, oh, this is all fine. I can just set it and it'll be fine. Whereas the way the microphones are set up, where they're positioned and everything, also has like a massive impact on how it all sounds. So I just had to make sure everything was the same. And very happy with the results of what I got anyway. So I am just very happy with like the microphones I have too. So
you've got 3 really good microphones. I'm going to tell you that right now. I mean, yes, there are more expensive, better sounding side address large condenser microphones, but there are things that, I mean, this is just fine for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you're recording yourself right now on it. You used it to record an amp. If you should so happen to ever find yourself recording a fiddle or a violin, they're actually quite lovely on bowed instruments.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
Again, you had to be very, very careful of the placement on it. And that has more to do with the instrument than anything else. It depends on what kind of sound you're going for, whether you're going for this really warm, close sound or this sort of chamber-esque sound. So, but yeah, the AT20, I find myself when I'm recording fiddles, I'm consistently reaching for that thing.
Oh, nice, nice. Cool. Well, thank you very much for your expert opinion and knowledge.
Oh, who's the
there
expert?
we go.
Who's the expert? We're bringing in experts now. Episode 198. We're finally bringing in an expert. Christ, who's that?
Awesome. Anything else you'd like to add?
I hope spring comes soon.
Mm-hmm.
As I look at it snowing again out there now. I want to say thank you again for having me on as many times as you've had. I delight in having these chats with you. So yeah, it's been my absolute pleasure and privilege to have been part of these in any way, shape, or form. So
Wicked.
yeah, I'm gonna miss these. I won't miss you because obviously we're still gonna be chatting.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just shot the camera a look, my phone a look, and nobody could see it. So yeah, I want to wish you all the best going forward, sir.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate you.
Thank you for having me and letting me become part of this wonderful little experiment that you've had going for 200 episodes, not including the first series, which was another 100 episodes.
Yeah.
Not including the other series before that was another dozen.
I know, right? Yeah. I greatly appreciate you joining me and just, recording with me and chatting. It's been great fun. And yeah, I think it's high time to end the podcast while I'm still enjoying it and not having it feel like a burden or anything. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a good call.
It's been great, and we've had many great chats about everything, including progress, like with you through 1551, and just how that's changed and evolved, and
which we are in writing. We are doing. We're well into it. We've got 2 songs that are pretty much done, and there's 3 or 4 more that are There's a couple that are in the zygote stage. There's a couple more that are in the fetus stage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ponder that image.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it is progressing, and we've had myself and Jeremy have had a couple discussions about it lately, and we're setting goals for ourselves, and so now we just gotta get to those goals. So and
nice.
And hopefully we reach them, and hopefully we surpass them. I have faith in us that we can.
Wicked. And where can we find you across the internet?
I am on the Tweety Box, Spencer in NL, and I am on the Rooster Teeth site as Granu. Although I was trying to look into changing my name on that because nobody knows what a Granu is, and I'm also on Instagram under my own like Spencer Crew kind of thing, but it's rare that I'm on that.
Mm-hmm.
Where else?
Fair enough.
That's pretty. Oh, and I'm on SoundCloud and all that stuff. But there you go.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining me this week. It's been great recording with you, and thank you for just joining me every time I asked, basically.
Gladly, in a heartbeat, sir. If you ever do it again, in a heartbeat, get at me.
Will do. And thank you everyone for listening. Have an exciting week. You're all my favourites. Goodbye.
Bye.